Welcome to Off the Console, the hottest podcast where we talk about video games, games-related topics, technology, multimedia, and more. And today's a bit of an unusual episode because unfortunately Gardner is feeling kind of under the weather today. And as such, he probably won't be joining us. There's a chance he might join us like midway through, but no guarantees.
Maybe we'll get a surprise, a surprise from him.
That'd be funny if that happened. So, what have you been up to, James?
Me, I have been up to... I've been playing Bill Outro on my iPad, and so I finally got around to it. When I first got into it, I didn't think it was going to be that addictive. I was like, okay, I could probably drop this in a little bit. Like, this is a very typical path for me to try out new games. I'll try them out for a few minutes to get just a feel for it, and then I'll pick them up later. Well, I continued to play it for about an hour or two later. And so I might have to delete it off my iPad. That's what I've been up to, is potentially going to have to delete that game off my iPad before I get too addicted to it.
Come on, man. You can't delete it off your iPad. It's Game of the Year nominee, man.
Oh, what? I know. I'm just saying it more for comedic effect that it's addicting. I get what people are saying. And if it gets more addicting, then I won't get anything done. So I have to delete it and then reinstall it. And it's a whole horrible pathway to laziness for me.
I understand. Yeah. Yeah. I've been playing.
I'm sure anyone that's touched that game understands that.
Yeah, I know. I've lost many hours to it. Yeah, I myself have been playing Marvel Rivals. I've been kicking ass as Spider-Man, and
nice.
Yeah, it's real fun. I'm not gonna go out and say it's better than Overwatch because people are gonna get a little pissed off. But I think I enjoy it more than Overwatch. I'll say that.
I think people are gonna get pissed off no matter what. But so Marvel Rivals, honestly, I did not keep track of this one. Marvel is anything that's a superhero video game that's not Batman. Maybe one other game, I don't know. I don't really keep track of. What is this one about?
So you played Overwatch, right?
Yes.
Imagine Overwatch but third person, and the characters have crazier powers, and there are like specific synergistic elements. Like let's say for example, if you have Venom and Spider-Man on your team, Spider-Man gets a new ability where he uses a symbiote.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other like abilities like that too. It's pretty cool.
I like that. That's a really cool aspect to it. Synergy. That's one that Overwatch get into. I actually quite like Overwatch, and so it makes it more intriguing. It's third person, which is kind of like Valve's new hero shooter, right?
I mean, sort of, but Valve's is more like hardline MOBA, whereas this is more like hero shooter, like Overwatch, basically.
Yeah. Overwatch.
So, okay. Like, yeah, so basically it's that. It's third person. There's a pretty big emphasis on, like, melee characters, too. Spider-Man is primarily a melee character. He can shoot web balls at people, but you want to swing around and jump. You want to swing around, jump into like enemy backlines, kill their healer or whatever, and then swing back out. And it's insanely fun because Spider-Man's super fast.
Yeah, this is sounding like they thought it through. It sounds really interesting. Huh. And he's mainly a melee. I don't know if I'd ever... I guess maybe so.
I mean, Brigida's mainly melee, but she also doesn't swing like Spider-Man.
Well, I was like, Spider-Man can swing, like, he can grab things and fling them to people and stuff like that. He can be, I feel like, a mix.
Yeah, he doesn't, like, sling, like, object. He doesn't, like, use his web to sling.
Yeah.
He should, though. That'd be awesome.
I have a feeling that mechanic would have been very difficult to program.
Yeah, I understand. But aside from that, though, I wanted to get into Path of Exile, too, but much to my dismay, I didn't realize it was paid early access. I mean, it's like a week. I can wait until like the 12th or whatever. But I kind of don't want to.
But yeah, do you want to? Like, one, you don't want to. This is America. You can pay to get it sooner. No. And then two, you can piss everyone off by doing it.
Well, I'll let the paid beta testers test the game. Word has it runs pretty well on Steam Deck early on, but then later game it gets kind of laggy. I mean, I'm not surprised. It is a Diablo-like.
I feel like every game is like that with the Steam Deck lately. It's getting a little frustrating, I'll be honest, is that the game will run fine, and then later on, because it's not been optimized later on as well, or because there's just more action occurs, that's how games work, tends to not do as well. That it is a frustrating
They're
aspect.
specifically targeting the YouTubers that play the game for like 10 minutes on YouTube and then say it works well.
Yeah, I've been guilty, kind of. I say kind of. I go and read. I don't play through the whole thing when I do recommendations. What I do is I go and read up like everyone else's recommendations, and then I play it throughout. Sometimes I'll try to see if I can skip through it, and then give my recommendations. But that's why I also don't do recommendations these days. Takes too much time.
I understand.
But
I understand.
do you do recommendations? Like I'm like you guys are awesome. Whoever like plays the whole game and can do a really good job. It's just that's so time consuming.
I make recommendations. But I don't make recommendations on new games, whether or not they should play them or
Yeah.
not. Like, I'll tell them I enjoy it, and like if it runs on Steam Deck well, then yeah, I'll tell them that happens too. But I don't like. I'm not a game reviewer as much as I'd like to
Yeah.
be, but I don't have the time of day because I have a day job. It's not my day job.
Even if you have a day job, there's too many games that come out. You have to niche down. I feel like it's crazy talking to Noah, 2 weeks ago on the last episode, and him talking about all the games he plays, and I just honestly, gaming is more than a hobby to me at times, but it definitely I could not do that. I mad respect to anyone that could be a reviewer and especially review multiple different types of games. I niche down in that area, and we oh, it's so difficult.
I mean, I agree. I mean, if you look at some of the bigger prominent reviewers like Skill Up, they review mostly the
Yeah.
popular stuff. Whereas, I think you and I like to we like to imbibe in the occasional indie game. Me,
Oh,
yeah, as well.
I'm niche. I'm niche. If it's a horror game that's amazing and it's indie, like down for it. In fact, a lot of the best indie game horror or best horror games are indie. So um, yeah, I definitely have my style of games I enjoy playing, and I'll sometimes do reviews on those, but not too often these days. It's much easier to do hardware, um, technically.
Yeah, well, I think it's time for us to get into our main topic of the day, SteamOS Fremont. Now, for those who don't know, SteamOS is the operating system that Steam uses, the Steam Deck uses. And essentially, what this is a brand new device that's supposedly a Steam like machine, like a TV box that you plug into your TV. So there's a lot of interesting details in regards to this. Like, for first and foremost, is that it is a new device. The only thing we've really gotten so far is that it uses HDMI CEC, which is the protocol that your game console, whatever, would use to control like the TV. Like if you turn on your PS5, it automatically turns your TV on. That's what it does. I'm sure it's capable of more functions, but I don't know all of them off the top of my head. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, no, I thought the Steam Deck could do this already. Can it not when it's docked?
I mean, I think it can, but it's
Maybe I'm just thinking of power on. So like TVs, when they get a signal from the HDMI, they can turn on. Maybe that's just what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So this is in regards to a new device though, and
Yeah.
oh, the guy here, cool Beho 3K, whatever. He, what a nickname. Anyways, so he discovered that this hardware is somewhat similar to Google's own Chrome OS devices, which is interesting. And it's apparently being developed on a platform called AMD Lilac, codenamed AMD Lilac.
Uh-huh.
And word has it, these are using the AMD Ryzen 8540U. It might not be the final SoC, he says, but we're going to base it off of that. So Geekbench scores have shown that this is at least in many cases, like, see, double the performance in terms of CPU performance, and probably like triple in terms of GPU performance.
Of the Steam Deck.
Yep. And there's this theory that this is running on Chrome OS with the Steam client running on top of it. And
Chrome. Why? But why choose Chrome OS?
we don't know that, but one grand theory is that this allows Valve to run existing Android apps on the same device, Android TV apps. So
Interesting.
the idea, I get, yeah, I think the idea is
yeah.
Yeah, I think you and I get into the same conclusion. They want a TV set-top box, and they want access to like Netflix and like Amazon Prime and all that shit. And this would be an easy way to get all those apps in there without having to like have them on Steam. Because there's a good chance that they would never like put Netflix on Steam, you know?
Why though?
Why?
I'm curious why they wouldn't. That'd be more of a, maybe it's too hard to garner a deal with Netflix and these companies, but here's my take on this. I really fully do not think Valve is going to touch Chrome OS. Maybe Android, maybe they'll tinker with Android a little bit. Chrome OS though is Linux based or Unix based at the bare minimum. Google has a very bad reputation for canceling almost everything they touch, except for a couple of core pieces. And so Valve is really hesitant to these types of things, and I just don't know if I could see them ever getting in bed with Google on this type of stuff. That's why I say, like, this is very interesting.
That's fair.
And yeah, sorry.
No. You can go on, man.
It's just, I don't know. I don't know if Chrome OS, except for maybe having good support, like DRM support for Netflix. So Netflix and a bunch of those companies really, they work great on certain platforms because of DRM, but I think they tend to struggle depending on like what browser on Linux it is. If the browser does not support their DRM, then it doesn't work. I know this from developing apps on the Steam Deck. And so that could be why they're going that route, is not because they don't want to put apps and stuff on the Steam Deck or on the Steam client, Steam store, but they want to make it easier to get multimedia onto their ecosystem. Like you talked about, that could be a way around it, is just not have to worry about all that DRM encryption and everything. But if they're using Chrome, which I think they use, I can't remember if they use a headless Chrome or Chrome on SteamOS, like, then you're fine. And when you use almost any other browser besides maybe Firefox on Linux, where you can't really do it. So, like, the built-in one doesn't run Netflix properly.
So I am curious as to how Valve came to the solution to use Chrome OS, and I'm looking at their GitHub page, or rather this GitLab by Evlav. Like you've seen this, right? It's basically just a mirroring of Valve's own like repos and stuff. So in there,
I haven't seen this one specifically.
So in this commit, I'm gonna link it to you right now.
Yeah, I got the commit.
Yeah, so in the commit, it mentions Google DeckHQ, specifically Google DeckHQ, which I believe is a Chrome OS device of some sort.
Maybe I don't have that one. Can you send it to me?
Yeah, I can send it to you here.
Because I have one, but I don't. This commit is not that.
And let's see what else. There's also some sort of implementation on Google's side for AMD Lilac as well.
Oh yeah.
So here's a question: would you buy a Steam console, a Steam box?
Yes, I would. If it was powered by Google Chrome or anything Google, maybe not. If it was supporting, because they could be going down the route of supporting, so like Chrome OS, there's Chrome OS, but then there's also their they have other protocols for streaming and all that they could be also starting to implement and offering support. They could be offering support for I know that so I know that they have been working with Google. We do know that actually technically to work with Chrome OS. I think they mentioned it like a year or two ago. But I don't know if it was anything to do with this. I think it was to get the client on there and to get games playing on Chrome OS. So this could be in relation to that, but to get back to your question, yeah, I would totally. I'd love a a Steam box. 3 times more powerful. Yeah, I think that'd be about right. I still don't know if that would beat my 3090, but I'm kind of down for the age that I'm gaming on a dedicated device over my work PC these days.
Yeah, I would buy one of these for sure. People are saying it's going to be like an Nvidia Shield competitor. You've heard of the Nvidia Shield, right?
I have one. I have two actually. I like the Nvidia Shield quite a bit, but they did not keep up on updates, and it started to slog down after a while. Like it was great while it lasted. I streamed from my main PC because I have Nvidia cards. That was one of the reasons why I stuck with Nvidia, but now they're giving me almost no reason to stick with Nvidia these days, because they're canceling all their streaming services and stuff like that. I liked it for that, but beyond that, like, I don't. Valve has already created an Nvidia Shield, technically already, right? And so they've already done this. What I think they're going to be doing is they're going to be doing a console TV box. They could integrate it with, like, if they're smart, like, this is, if I was their team and had the resources, I would be focusing all around the Steam Deck, and then stuff that would boost it from, like, when you plug it into the TV, such as external GPU kind of stuff. But that's just my opinion.
Yes, and this is all interesting stuff. I would buy one of these, and this is very interesting given the next topic at hand, the Steam brand guidelines. So, Valve released a PDF detailing all the ways you should use their Steam branding if you're, like, partnered with Valve and whatnot. Among these are, of course, powered by SteamOS, Steam included, and, of course, Steam-compatible controllers. So what are your thoughts on this?
I think they're gearing up for a big marketing run, and a big. It doesn't mean that they have, like, dozens of deals yet, but they obviously are working with some companies, and they've been working with companies for a while for this type of stuff anyway. So this is not like beyond Valve or Steam's capability. They've worked with companies before, on and off. I mean, they're making their own hardware at this point. I do think that we could be seeing another. And I know I'm sure they're so hesitant. That's why they've been quiet about it. Another console push with a bunch of third parties potentially. Meaning, I know I've seen some stuff from other people that say Valve might not make their own. Like, the Steam Deck 2 is not going to be coming. It's going to be all third party. I don't know if I believe that, but I think Valve might be pushing to, or Steam might be pushing to be a much more PC console player, meaning they're going to compete with consoles more and more. And they're going to be more the PC side of things, right? So
Absolutely.
That's what's intriguing to me.
So I do think this is interesting given that the Switch, Super Nintendo Switch, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not calling it a Switch 2, by the way, because Nintendo's never named anything. Like, there's no GameCube 2, there's no Wii 2. That's one. I think it's interesting that Valve is releasing these guidelines, like, at the heels of Nintendo announcing their new Switch successor. And also, I think it's interesting that Valve is deciding to essentially go through with a second Steam Machine initiative. This time, I'm sure this also includes, like, handhelds and whatnot. But I am curious as to how many of these companies would actually go with SteamOS, because let's look at the ROG Ally. one of its main selling points is you can play all of your games. Not like most of your games minus Fortnite or minus Destiny 2 or whatever. All of your games that work well on controller.
Yeah, but the experience is not the same. If you
Uh,
want an experience that's seamless, that you pick it up, put it down, Windows not your friend. If you're want to play everything, then it is. Like I think there is going to be both options for a while until, and Valve, if they can do it right and get the market share, all Fortnite, everything's going to end up on SteamOS. And so right now they're playing chess, and if they can do it right, I think SteamOS is going to be the gamers' operating system for at least PC gamers. I think Windows is like they've already lost me, essentially, is what I'm saying. It doesn't mean that I'm everyone, but they've already pissed me off enough with all this stuff, and I'm pretty I'm pretty open to like change, but we'll see. We'll see. Because my ROG Ally up there is nice and all. I don't play Fortnite though. I don't play a lot of DRM or very specific anti-cheat games that are prevented on the Steam Deck. But I rarely pick up that ROG Ally is dedicated to like specific games, like Starfield, because it plays better on there.
I understand. Yeah, I mean, I certainly see. Yeah, I am curious as to how these will affect the sale of the Steam Deck, because let's be frank, a lot of people buy these thinking that this is their cure-all. Sorry about that. So what I was saying was that essentially a lot of people buy these thinking that they'll like them a lot more, but of course they don't because the interface is whatnot. But do you think people? I think people would like them a lot more if they came with SteamOS, and I am curious as to how this would affect Steam Deck sales, potential Steam Deck 2 sales.
I think, well, so no matter what, it's going to affect it, but I don't think Valve cares. The market's growing, so we have a market caps and stuff like that. I don't think we've hit a market cap in any way on what people are going to buy portable wise. I think we're going to start hitting more or less like what people want to buy. Like if they can get to where you can play every game on the Steam Deck too, let's say, then I think they will win the PC market in the sense of I think more people are going to buy the Steam Deck over buying a gaming PC and stuff like that. I think this is just going to help garner the idea of SteamOS as the gaming operating system, and that's probably what Valve wants. As I don't think would want to support the Steam Deck for generations, like decades to come. I think they're usually innovators. They're not. They don't grab onto an IP and just continue it forever unless there's a good reason. I think that's pretty indicative of everything they've done typically. So, I think this also opens up to new innovations. Maybe they want to see Steam controllers, like, the Hori controller. They want to see more stuff that's Steam VR compatible, start competing with the Meta VR headset, and maybe actually start competing and start actually understanding that people need to have badges to feel like it's a valid product of what they want. And if you've already bought into the Steam ecosystem, I think it's a very powerful brand, meaning your games are going to travel with you for decades. And so if they can keep this going, I think we're going to see some. I just, it's not like they haven't done stuff like this before. They've had branding to indicate certain things, but I think I don't know, there just seems like so much talk with SteamOS 3 lately and everything that they're really gearing up for something special.
So, I am excited for these new Steam compatible controllers because now this means I don't know if anyone can just go up to Valve and be like, "Hey, I want to make a Steam compatible controller." But it seems like Valve is willing to work with anyone that, they feel is qualified. I don't know what the like if 8BitDo were to go up there, I'm sure Valve would be like, "Okay, guys can make a Steam controller." I would buy an 8BitDo like Steam controller.
Yeah, I have a feeling it all depends on how compatible is it with Steam, and that's it. Like, I don't know if they're going to care too much about the company unless maybe bad PR or something like that. Valve's not like they're weird. They're like very controlling and very I don't know a better word, but like libertarian kind of thing. Like they're very like Wild West, but then they're very controlling when it comes to very specific things in that Wild West. And so it's kind of how they run the company too.
I understand.
So I could see them like anyone being able to create a controller. It's just got to probably fit a very small set, and then everything else can be kind of crazy.
Yeah, so about that. So they have requirements for Steam compatible controllers. They must have the following inputs. They must have a Steam button, a quick access menu button, start and select, or I guess they call it view and menu, and ABXY. Everything's got to match what the Steam Deck has in terms of like glyphs. You also need at least a pair of rebindable buttons in the back or somewhere else. And then you need
bindable.
Well, they say the PDF says rear/auxiliary rebindable buttons, 2 or more. So, like, think those macro buttons.
2 or more. Does the Hori controller even have 2 in the back? Or no, wait, 2. I was thinking 4. I was thinking of sets.
Well, it does have. Well, it does have 2 in the back, and then 2 like under the like D-pad stuff. And then you need to have gyro. It's required. And you need to have capacitive touch sensing thumbsticks too. It's mandatory. So
that one's an interesting one. I'm not surprised, but yeah, this is definitely more strict than I thought it was going to be. But they want. So they're developing games. They've developed games. They've done a lot of work when it comes to input to feedback in the game, right? And so, like with PlayStation 5. Xbox, they have specific, like especially PlayStation 5, right? Like it has its touchpad on it and everything. They have very specific inputs that some games require. They cannot, like, I don't know if you can, maybe you can create a PlayStation third-party controller that doesn't have that, but I think Valve has visions and wants this games to start developing certain things for their console-like device, right? And so, yeah. No, it's not surprising that they want it to all be the same. I know that's what they've said about SteamOS 3. They didn't want to support other devices that didn't have some of the stuff that was on the Steam Deck. It sounds like they've rolled that back a little bit, but I'm not surprised that they would then go ahead and like, well, if it's a Steam-compatible controller, you've got to have all these requirements. And I think that's good. I think having strong requirements is just better for the end user. But it's a lot. It's a lot to put in. It's a lot. There's a lot to stick onto a controller, I'll be honest.
So I am curious about the touch capacitive thumbsticks because, you know, they obviously would need to be the same as what they have on the Hori controller or the Steam Deck. But as far as I'm aware, Valve is the only one that's ever, like, made, like, I don't know, who owns that patent? Like, would you explicitly have to go through Valve to get access to those?
Valve doesn't usually do patents like that. They could own the patent, or it could be because I don't know if anyone else has done it. I don't think they've ever heard of any patent troubles with that. We'd have to look up the patent rules for this, or like if there's patents for this. But my assumption is like from a technical standpoint, it won't be that difficult. It's very simple. If you've ever taken apart the Steam Deck and seen the controller or swapped out the controllers, like it's a very simple one little
it's
or whatever it is.
Yeah, you have to solder onto the board. Yeah.
Some of them come pre-soldered, but yeah, I've had to solder it multiple times, and it's just one wire. And so it's not a very complex technical side of things. But yeah, I think you bring up a good point with the patent. Of course, I think Valve would let anyone. I just don't think Valve usually guards that type of stuff unless it's for PR reasons or maybe some company could do damages or something.
Yeah, and plus, like, that kind of stuff, and that sort of, like, touch capacitive sensitiveness only kind of works on Steam right now. Like, I don't think you could use that without Steam, to be honest. Like, the Hori pad has an Xbox mode, but
yeah,
the touch capacitiveness doesn't work on Xbox mode, nor does a gyro. And of course,
yeah, the whole point for that feature though is to enable the gyro to be able to do spatial controls or inputs for games and stuff like that. It's pretty much the whole point. You don't. It's not really a requirement. In fact, I broke mine on one of my installs of a Steam Deck.
What?
Okay, I didn't break. I just installed the wrong joystick, and so the touch capacitor didn't work properly. Then I don't use the gyro very much, and so it doesn't change. Like if you don't use that type of thing, the game doesn't require that. It doesn't break much. So I will have to say that one, probably out of all the requirements, the touch capacity kind of thing is probably the weirdest one. Everything else, though, I understand.
Absolutely. And you can also add additional functions to your controls. Like, let's look at the Hori pad. It's basically got everything on that list. But it does have pressure-sensitive analog. It has pressure-sensitive triggers.
Does Valve require that? Or
no, it's not required, but it's just a feature that Hori put on there.
Crazy.
And Steam supports it too.
I know it does. That's why I'm saying it's crazy. I thought the Steam Deck supported pressure sensitive, or does it not?
No, the Steam Deck just has regular like analog triggers. Like these, like they feel like super short throw triggers. Like I have one in front of me right now. It feels like a super short throw trigger. It's almost like a digital trigger, but the harder you press down on it, the greater the analog value, so to speak. So yeah.
Oh, you have the Hori?
Yeah, I do have the Hori. I imported it from Japan a while back. I don't like the controller all that much, to be honest.
What's that?
I don't like the controller all that much, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You just don't like the feel of it?
No, I don't like the feel of it. I know a lot of people have been complaining about it not having trackpads, but I think that's like the least of its worries.
We talked about this last episode, I think, or episode before, that you and Gardner are like, just gotta have trackpads. I don't necessarily care about the trackpads. I do care about them, but I feel like if you try to shove trackpads onto a controller like this, it's ridiculous. You'd have to make it Duke size, which I'm fine with, but you gotta understand, adding trackpads and every bells and whistles to a controller, it has limitations. And so, yeah. Huh. I mean, the Hori, like, my problem with the Hori controller partially is just, I don't like the D-pad, and I kind of want it to be more mimicking of what the Steam Deck's layout is. You know, I want the joysticks to maybe be a little bit more lined up as I've gotten used to that on the Steam Deck. Like, I use a PlayStation controller if I use anything else, just because it's a very solid controller. This looks like it could be very solid, but like you were mentioning, it just, some things are missing, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it doesn't feel great.
Yeah, I mean, Valve is making crazy plays with this. Like, what controller brands do you see actually working with Valve?
Yeah, what controller brands would work with Valve on this? That's an interesting question. I don't buy third-party controllers. I haven't since I was a little kid, because back then it was cheap. Nowadays I'm just like, no, the cheap ones die much quicker. What brands are there?
Well, of course you have 8-Bit Dough. And
8-Bit Dough, okay. I could see them 100% doing it.
Gully Kit as well.
Yeah. Their stuff's fine. Like, I upgraded. Yeah, we don't need to get into that. Razer, maybe?
I can see Razer doing it. There's a bunch of other I think there's GameSir as well.
8-Bit, or Turtle Beach.
There's a lot of
controllers.
Yeah, I have a lot of. I've looked at a lot of controller brands. I couldn't remember half of them off the top of my head. And to be honest, a lot of them let me review the controllers in regards to how they work on the Steam Deck. And I think they might work with Valve on this, of course. I'm not sure. But
Who?
Like I said, I can't remember their names off the top of my head, besides like Gully Kid and 8-Bit Dough, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I have an 8-Bit Dough keyboard, and I love this thing. So I'm down for them to do a controller. I'd buy it.
I would too. Anyways. But here's another question: what handheld companies do you think would use SteamOS as opposed to Windows or whatever?
I think all of them, except for like one or two, maybe. I think anyone that's overseas, um, INEO, I think they're always releasing handhelds, right? So I think they will release some handhelds with SteamOS on it. They could even do dual boot. Once SteamOS can do dual boot, they could always ship it with both and have an option. They could work on the BIOS and make it so that like upon start you can select it easier than what it is. There's you can always modify the launcher. There is, I think, to break out of the pack, I guarantee at least one or two of the major PC companies that have entered the mobile handheld PC gaming race will probably do it. ROG, I could see Asus doing it, but we'll see. They've put a lot of money and research into their armory, and it's really good. Honestly, if I'm going to be playing on a handheld in Windows, it's going to be using Armory. Armory is just drastically better than anything else I've tested. Like, I did not like any other software that much that I've used. But as far as other companies, maybe MSI. I know that they've been struggling, but then again, I don't know if it would support it because it's Intel, right? The Claw is Intel, so meaning I just don't think it would work very well on Intel.
I think Linux has Intel supports Linux, unlike Nvidia.
It does, but I'm talking about SteamOS specifically. Out of the box, you install SteamOS. I don't know how they managed loading drivers and stuff like that. Usually they have everything kind of fine tuned, and then they can pick drivers, maybe even install them from a store that they have. I don't know how SteamOS 3 is going to do that. There, other operating systems do it differently, and sometimes they have like built-in drivers that work well enough until you install the main driver, but I'm not sure how they're going to do it. So that's what I'm saying. Like Intel, maybe, but that's a whole other can of worms that's beyond probably even in like, yeah. This is my opinion on the whole thing. Their APUs are kind of like not that great, and their GPU architecture is definitely different, and so I just don't know how much support there is. But the Legion Go S, or like the Legion Go, would be a good one because their software's not great. That's one of the things I knocked on it when I was testing it last year. That it was a horrible experience for me, at least, to play games on it. They could definitely do a boost if they had SteamOS on there. That'd make them a huge competitor. I'd honestly probably buy their next system.
So speaking of Nvidia, I mean not Nvidia, Lenovo's next system. This isn't a topic, by the way, but coincidentally, we got some leaks on their new Lenovo Legion Go S, which is essentially like a mini Lenovo Legion Go. It's basically Legion Go, but without a lot of the bells and whistles like detachable controllers or a kickstand or the mouse mode. It's basically just like any other handheld, to be honest. I mean,
it looks okay. Here's the thing. They removed everything that made it unique and went with a style that is pretty much an Ally with, be fair, rounder edges, so it looks more comfortable than the ROG Ally, but it looks a lot like an INEO and an ROG Ally had a baby, and then it has a little, and along with the Kun, the INEO Kun has like that little trackpad I think at the bottom, or they have two, but this one has like one little track square right at the bottom.
Yeah, like a really small one.
I'm curious how that works. It could be very useful for doing quick things in Windows, but beyond that, I'm curious. That's their defining difference between everything. It definitely looks like everything else is pretty much set up to be like any other device. It doesn't look bad. I just don't know why you'd buy something like this over what we already have, except for maybe, if the Z2 that should be going into it, right?
So, word has it, the price, according to Windows Central, the price is expected to be around $399 to $449,
for
and
the.
this for this, and it runs a Z2G Rembrandt Zen 3 plus
That's
cores.
that's funny. I'm looking at a different leak, and they're saying it's going to be about $600, and it's going to be uh, yeah, just a regular Z2, and it says Z2 Go chip. Um, that's they could be coming out with two different versions. Or they could always come out. Oh wow, yeah, it's the Zen 3 Plus. Why would they downgrade it?
If I had to
Huh.
guess, probably for
Battery.
budgetary reasons. If they're gonna use like last gen hardware for the new Z2Gs, then I'm assuming it's gonna be for like pricing.
Not necessarily. That all depends on manufacturing, how much extra stuff there is. So manufacturing, if they're already building a ton of new gen stuff, I don't think it makes it much cheaper. I could see it maybe being maybe more not as power hungry, maybe. But you could be right. You could be right easily on that. It's the leaks on this stuff is everywhere. This is crazy. Um,
Well, hopefully we'll see this at CES in like a month.
True, they could be gearing up for CES. Like we could be seeing a lot of cool. Okay. I'm gonna ask you a question here. I know we. What device company that we have not seen? So we have Dell. I'm not gonna.
Oh
We have a couple
Lord.
of we have a couple of different companies that have done PC gaming stuff before. But can you think of any that you'd like to see at CES that that has not entered the game yet that might most likely enter the game at CES or announce?
Does Razer count? Because I think Razer has like tried to make gaming tablet like sort of deals. They've made prototypes and they've also made like
Yeah.
one really weird like oh my god, I can't even remember the name of the product, but it's basically like the Steam Deck almost. It's got the screen in the middle and it's got controllers on the side. It kind of looks like like a crossbreed a crossbreed between like a Nintendo Switch and like a Steam Deck almost, but
I mean,
it's
they
much
made one
more
that was
alien.
Android that was meant to be for like streaming, wasn't it? Or playing Android
Yeah,
games.
they made that like a few years ago, but I'm talking like they made something like a decade ago almost.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. That thing was awesome. That's the thing about I like Razer, but they've really lost their touch in a lot of ways. Their builds look amazing, but they don't hold up. And so I'm really hoping that they fix that. Meaning their batteries go really fast because they overheat. Um, Razer would probably be the one I'm most excited for to see, probably because I think aesthetically they have some of the best aesthetics and branding. Um,
Absolutely.
but they would have to win me over with that battery not overheating and becoming a spicy pillow. Um, I think so. Is that your say? Is like Razer? I think that's a good one. I would like your pick for what you'd want to see.
Yeah, I think so.
Mine, okay, mine is Alienware. I know it's a weird one. I feel like they had the original concept for like detachable and everything else. Even though I think they were playing off of probably Switch when the Switch first came out because we saw that prototype of the Alienware UFO. I would probably say the Alienware would be a great one to see. Only because I really like their concept of what they made years ago with the Alienware UFO. Not necessarily because I have faith in them as a company. I have about as much faith in them as I have Razer right now. Um, to be honest, I think the best company for making this type of stuff right now, beyond Steam, is Asus. I think they have the second best device history, but I'm curious with those two.
I thought you said we weren't saying Dell.
Okay, first off, Alienware started off differently and then Dell bought them. So that's I don't it's not fully fair, but yes. I was I think we could get a ThinkPad handheld. No, yeah, no Dell, but a Dell company like Alien. Well, actually, I think they've incorporated Alienware more into it, but Alienwares are fine. I don't know if you've played with one recently, high tech, but they're fine. They're fine laptops. I wouldn't say, uh, I honestly, at this day and age, I don't know which company does a better gaming laptop. MSI has always been nice, but that's a hard one to say which one of those could make a better handheld.
I think the only one we've heard nothing about, or we haven't seen any sort of prototyping or any proof of concept or anything from, is HP.
Yeah, I think HP's on their cash cow way out of things. I wouldn't be surprised if HP gets like acquired by someone. Um, they're massive, but they don't. I don't know. Does HP do much innovation in the gaming industry anymore? I don't know if they do.
I mean, they have their HP Omen brand, but no. Aside from that, no.
Oh, that's right. They do have the Omen brand, but that's like a subsidiary, right? Like that's like a offset brand.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
I could be wrong about that.
Unless you want to go into more boutique manufacturers like
Right.
Main Gear, Falcon Northwest. They're not making handhelds. I promise you, they're not making handhelds. As cool as a Falcon Northwest handheld would be, it's not happening.
Yeah, and it's because of budgetary reasons. Like, unless you're a big dog, I think it costs a lot to do a lot of research into these things. If it's not your core demographic.
Yep. All right. Now, hopefully, all right. So let's go back to like the handhelds we have now. So, if they released SteamOS on all the handhelds right now, Legion Go, ROG Ally, which of those handhelds would be the best?
Which of that? Sorry, rephrase that question.
So, if we got a general release SteamOS for like all of the handhelds that we have right now, like the Legion Go or the ROG Ally, which of those would be the best with SteamOS?
ROG Ally, hands down. Partially because Legion Go requires additional drivers that I just don't think would be there yet. And maybe that's why they're deviating a little bit. I need to try Bazite on Legion Go, but I just don't have my Legion Go anymore. I returned it because I didn't like it. And this isn't coming down to like, I think if the Legion Go fully supported SteamOS, like out the bat, like if the controllers and everything worked, I might actually go with Legion Go way over the Ally, because I really like the concept of having like options of detaching the controllers and doing all that stuff. Like, but their software just was not good. Their software, like their drivers and their UI, like their on device, like their Windows software to select games and all that stuff, it just was not good. It was really bad. That's why I'm saying, like, I think the Ally easily takes it because it's just out of the box is compatible almost. Bazite works great on it. So
yeah, man, I would. Damn that! I know I asked this question, but I can't even answer my own question, man. I want to say the Legion Go because I actually really like the Legion Go. I kind of have a soft spot for it, but the Ally X just has. Yeah, I do have one. I still have mine, but the Ally X is so good. It's got battery life too. Do you have an Ally X?
I don't have the X. I just have a regular one, but I know someone in my community has been mentioning like you should do the battery upgrade. I'm like, it takes like 3 months to get here, and I don't even know what I'm going to be doing in 3 months.
3 months to get there? Wait, what?
You can get a battery upgrade, and so you chip out part of the plastic of at the back of an Ally, and you can upgrade the battery to be the same size as the Ally X.
No way.
But it takes 3 months, and so I don't know.
Oh, are you like shipping it from AliExpress or whatever?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Why don't you should order it right now so you can get it sooner. Because if you keep waiting, then you're never gonna get it done.
I know I have lots of projects that are unfinished that I did stuff like that for. That's what I'm like, maybe I should chisel out the back of my Ally X and actually start using it, because that's the biggest downside to the Ally, or not the Ally X, the Ally. The Ally is the battery, and so the Ally X, like, both from because I like black more than white colors, or darker colors, that is. I love the X. I just couldn't justify buying the X. Honestly, I can't justify buying most handhelds these days. I need to start getting in the game of getting review, at least getting someone's like pass it around or something like that. I just need to get hands on and do tests on these devices. And yeah, we don't need to dive down that any deeper. Yeah, that's a hard one.
Dude, make a video. What'd you say?
What was the video?
No, I was saying you should make a video on the battery upgrade.
I'd probably do a stream. I've done streams in the past where I've honestly, those are some of my best streams on the channel, is doing like hardware stuff in real time. You'll see me until like midnight, like stressing out and finally getting it. Like there's nothing more stressful than you not being confident in doing modifications to a device than doing it live and soldering and everything like that. So yeah, maybe I'll do that. We'll see. That requires me to not have as much anxiety about it, but I'm working on that. So I was gonna ask,
like if I liked something.
Have you tried Bazite or anything else on the Legion Go?
I have tried Bazite. This was several months ago. It was a little less. It wasn't as stable as it is now, probably. I did like it on the Legion Go. Yes, I think it worked. It actually works really well. Though there are some. They have added a lot more to Bazite since I last tried it on my Legion Go.
I mean, I did Bazite a few months ago too, and it worked great on the ROG Ally. Like, I still have it on there. I need to update it.
And I also did try out the mousing functions, and it just worked. Like, even months ago.
Really?
Yeah, you can flip on FPS mode and use it as a mouse, and there's that.
Must be purely hardware based. Interesting. Huh. That's definitely more tempting. I'm just saying, like, if SteamOS comes out and works great on the Legion Go, I'd be much more for that. The battery life is really garbage on that thing, but beyond that, yeah, okay, that might get me back in the game on that, because I really did not like using it.
Dude, you should. And in fact, I might do it now that I think about it. I haven't checked out Bazite in a while. I gotta see if it's good again. It's better.
I'm at the point where I want them to do a Legion Go 2, and so I'll wait for that. I'm not going to buy another Legion Go.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's probably better if you wait anyways, but I mean, I still have mine, so I'll do it.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. That's the thing I like. This is the stuff I like to do, is I like to tinker with this type of stuff. Not my main work PC anymore. Speaking of that, I'm really curious about this next topic.
Yes, Valve seems to be hitting its stride, but also it seems to be hitting its possible lowest low since that one time the Vivendi sued the hell out of Valve. So this right here is a class action. I don't think it's that bad yet.
They've had tons of lawsuits, but yeah.
So this right here is a class action lawsuit, and honestly, this is the episode that I wanted Gardner to come to, because I was going to ask him if he was going to join that class action lawsuit, because he qualifies. He qualifies. He has sold a game on Steam in 2017. So like, yeah, he qualifies. I'm curious to see if Gardner would like actually join it. I don't think he would. Knowing him, I don't think he would.
I think, yeah, I don't know if I know him well enough to say that for any other reason except for I don't know if he'd want to be put on their bad list.
I don't think Valve would retaliate if anyone were to actually do that, because that's a lot of clients that you would lose. That's a lot of free 30% money that you'd lose if, like, say, EA joined that.
I'm not saying that he couldn't. I'm saying if he ever wanted to get hardware in the future from them, he would probably have a harder time Now, if his main income was Valve, or not Valve, making video games, then he probably could do it. But that's my saying, like, so if you're a game developer and you're making tons of money and you're on Steam, yes, do it. If you're not, and you're not making, and more of your money goes in from like YouTube and some of these other venues, then I don't see why you'd do it. But I would be curious to see what he'd have to say about this.
Damn. Maybe I'll ask him next
time.
next time.
We'll have another. Maybe we won't cover this one too much this time, but Is it so? All persons or entities who have essentially paid their 30% cut to Valve are now considered part of the class action lawsuit against. What is the lawsuit exactly for? Is it just because they don't think it's fair that it's 30% or what?
No, it's not that. It's not even about that really. It's about it's actually Wolfire Games that initiated this lawsuit. It's about selling their games off of Steam. And their claim is that so officially speaking, Valve's policy on selling Steam keys outside of Steam is that they have to be the same base price. Like I can't make a game that's $60 on Steam and then make Steam keys and then sell that for like $50 on my website. Yeah. I have to make that $60. But Wolfire Games is alleging that Valve polices game prices not just on Steam keys, but also like versions of the game that aren't on Steam. Like let's say you release a game on itch.io. It's like saying you can't sell your game for cheaper on itch.io, despite the fact that you're not selling a Steam key, right? Or like Epic or whatever.
As long as you're not using theirs, yeah, I agree. Like if that's what they're doing, then they're gonna lose this. Potentially. Depends on what the contract is, but contracts are becoming more hairy these days to enforce, or like services and stuff like that, terms of services. I don't remember them having anything where you can't sell it cheaper at a competitor's place, but I'm surprised we're getting cheap Steam keys nowadays because you can find pretty cheap Steam keys, right? But the problem is like the infrastructure cost for games. Let's say if they sell a game that's like 100 gigabytes for $5, like I don't know if Valve's going to make much money from that. Like they're going to get like a 30%, like if from that key, they could potentially get a 30% cut and that's it. That's not going to pay for the downloading that, like maybe even like a few times. So yeah,
honestly, man, I am curious as to how this will shake out because let's say Valve loses. What do you think would happen if Valve actually lost this case?
They'd probably since it's a class action lawsuit, they'd just be paying out a certain amount of money, mostly to the lawyers than to some companies, just a certain percentage, probably nothing too big. I think they have a bigger lawsuit going on with the UK.
But surely it would set some sort of precedent, right?
Yeah, it would set a precedent that you can't bully other people that want to do it on different platforms unless you have an exclusive agreement. So
yeah, I understand. And what would happen? What do you think would happen if Valve won the case? Now, obviously, Gardner and like other developers wouldn't get paid. Bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think with class action lawsuits like this, they usually don't pay very well to the common person in the sense of like everyone that goes in on it. It's usually the lawyers and a couple of people that usually get most of it. Yeah, I think if Valve does win this, they might even settle out of court. It's just like, hey, we're not going to do any of this, and we'll just give you some money. This is how this will go, potentially, depending on how strong the case is. If they win and sets a precedence that you can't, like, I just don't even know where the precedence is on this. Like, you should, like, if you're selling your game on a different platform at a different price, that's the whole point of competition and being able to not be a monopoly, right? And so this would set up even more monopoly. Like, we're already going into a world of monopolies, and they're supposed to be anti-monopoly coalitions and laws and all that stuff, and they're being broken down more and more. So this would set up, as much as I love Steam, I don't want to see them as a monopoly, and that would really hurt my perception of them. And honestly, I think it would hurt. Like, we've seen it, like any company that's really starting to hurt their PR, hurt their branding, like Ubisoft. More and more of their games are doing bad because they don't understand. Like, they hurt their perception. PR is a big deal, and it eventually will catch up to you. And Valve has so much good PR that it'd be silly if they broke that with this.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people concerned about, let's say, Gabe Newell retiring or, worse, passing away. They're worried about what's going to happen to Valve and Steam as a whole because they're worried that some, like, guy in Valve... Like, I understand that Valve has a specific culture, and that I'm sure most people want to maintain that culture, but I'm sure they're worried that some guy is just going to walk in, become president, and then, I don't know, make Valve publicly traded.
Yeah. I know he has contingencies for this. I can't remember what they were. I don't think that it's not going to be passed down to like children, but it could be. I know that his son works on it's not Neuralink, but works on something that's like a competitor to Neuralink. He could potentially pick it up, maybe, but most likely, I bet you they already have contingencies in place. I'm hoping to have this be like a long-term, they could put it into a trust, to where it can't be put on, there's a lot of different ways to protect the brand, and I'm hoping that he does, do something. I'm sure he has something lined up to have it remain kind of what it is.
I think so too. I mean, I don't know what options Gabe has to him, given that he's a multi-billionaire. I'm sure he has a lot of great options. I just don't know which ones would be the best way to protect Valve. Aside from maybe, I don't know, putting in a charter that says that you cannot make Valve publicly traded or whatever.
Yeah. Depending on who owns it, who owns like most of the company, I'm sure it's split up in very specific forms of fashions, even though it's not publicly traded. I bet you there's multiple owners, not just Gabe. I know in the past there has, but some people have sold out, and like sold out of the company, like the co-founder. I could see it being put into a type of trust, maybe if he wants to keep it more family. Or this is a whole speculative thing, and I'd love to hear what he has to say about it. That's why we have to grow the podcast. That's why people have to go and like subscribe, promote this and everything. Once we get big enough, we'll get Gabe on here.
Absolutely, man. That's gonna happen.
I know where he works. Actually, kind of don't, but I do. I know where he works, but he's been living in out of the country on and off. So
we could get Casey on here. I think Gardner has contacts with Casey.
Yeah, that'd be awesome too.
Yeah, we should do it.
But I want the great Gaben to come.
Hey man, baby steps, man, baby steps.
100% baby steps. But that doesn't mean I want to have a dream.
Don't worry, man. It'll come to pass once we grow this podcast. But in the meantime, though, there's a new special event coming out this month, and it's the SteamDeckHQ Steam Deck Awards. So last episode we talked about the possibility of Steam Deck Gaming coming out with their own special award ceremony. And SteamDeckHQ also announced theirs too, and I must confess, I've been working in secret with SteamDeckHQ to get this up and running. We actually talked about this last year in our DMs.
Traitor, secret agent.
So I've actually been talking with Noah about this last year in our DMs, and we've been working, he's been kind of busy, he's been kind of stressed out, going to all these game expos and whatnot over the past couple of months.
He's so busy.
Yeah, he's so busy. But we finally managed to get some time to get the Steam Deck Awards up and running. And we haven't released any new information about it, except for the article here that says that I helped him out on the record. And we've gotten some award categories, nominees, presenters. I can't reveal anything because I'm not under an NDA or anything like that. But I also like keeping things a surprise because it's funny and fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, keep it a surprise.
I am one of the announcers, though, I will say. And I think everyone knows this now by this point because I've made a couple of videos pointing out the fact that I am the announcer. It sounds kind of egotistical, but I'm just really excited about it.
The ego. No, you're good. I mean, I've thought about doing a Game Awards like a year or two ago. Actually, the first year I was doing Steam Deck stuff, but this is a lot. This takes a lot of work to get put together.
I know.
And so
you'd have to.
So can you leak what the Game of the Year on the Steam Deck is? Is it going to be an expansion pack, like a DLC? Is it going to be Elden Ring's DLC? that would be funny.
That would be funny. I'm not gonna say though.
No, I know. I'm just messing.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. I don't know when it's gonna air. It's not gonna be a live episode though. I will say, because we just don't have we kind of. It's our first time. Oh, I don't know if that's a spoiler or not, but spoiler alert.
What?
It's not going to be
First
like
time?
our
Oh.
first. It's going to be. It's not going to be a live episode because maybe next year or maybe the year after. I don't know. Speaking of
Nah,
which,
that makes sense.
and talking about Steam, let's talk about Black Friday and the Steam sale and Cyber Monday. Did you buy anything?
Technically, I did.
Technically,
I bought Balatro on Steam, and then I proceeded to buy it on iPad. But um, I almost bought a lot of different games, and I just ended up not because I was like, I need to get to my backlog a little bit more because I'm working on some games right now, and so I didn't end up buying any of the games I really wanted to. Like, yeah, there's a lot of new games that came out this year. Silent Hill 2 remake. I honestly, I might end up buying more when it comes to the New Year's. We'll see. But this is probably one of my points of like Black Friday, Steam sale, Cyber Monday, all that stuff, like where I didn't buy a whole lot during those sales.
yeah. Honestly, man, I kind of held out on buying Steam games because the winter sale is around the corner. But Black Friday, I bought some stuff unrelated to gaming. I bought a cabinet fireplace combo and a TV.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I have. I did not buy anything because it wasn't going to be on sale anyways. I bought an espresso maker. Semi-expensive espresso maker because my coffee maker broke and I've been wanting to get better coffee. So I did buy something, but it wasn't on sale.
I was thinking about getting a one of those KitchenAid like thingies, the KitchenAid like mixer thingies that you use to make bread and like knead bread without having to do it with your hand.
Is it so? There's kitchen. So like a mixer or like a bread maker?
Like what are their mixers? Like they're stand mixers.
Okay. Yeah.
They have a bread hook, and then you can.
Mm-hmm.
My brother and sister-in-law have one, and they brought it over to make some bread for us, and I helped too. They made focaccia. We made focaccia. It was pretty good. It was pretty fucking good.
Focaccia's amazing. Yeah, no, good stuff. Like I have a bread maker that yeah, we don't need to get. I have a bread maker, and it's really good. It's really good. So I don't blame you. But the bread maker, I just throw everything in and it just makes it for me.
But in terms of tech stuff for myself, I bought myself a 2 terabyte micro SD card from Team Group because it was on sale.
Ooh. Okay.
And Team Group's a legit brand. I'm sure you know of this, but like, you know, for our viewers, they are a legit brand. They make SSDs and stuff. They're a little more obscure, and obviously they're not like the top dogs in the SSD world like Samsung or whatever. But yeah.
Okay. So when are you gonna start using that?
Well, I'm in the process of reviewing it. Now, nice. I don't know how practical micro SD card reviews are since like all the top ones are kind of the same, but like yeah.
Yeah, as long as it has it should be good, right? Maybe I should get myself a 2 terabyte now. I have a 2 terabyte NVMe drive in my deck, but pairing it with a 2 terabyte
SD card,
awesome. Yeah,
do it. 4 terabytes, baby. You know you want to do it.
I mean, honestly, right now with the 2 terabytes, I already like manage it to where I'm like, well, if I want to put something on it, I usually delete something else, and it's just enough. But like, oh man, some games are so massive. Like Baldur's Gate 3 does not run great on the deck. I don't know what people are even in the beginning part, it runs okay, but not good enough to play on the Steam Deck. And
didn't they just name a mod? Didn't they just name a mod support for Baldur's Gate 3?
Did they do what with Baldur's Gate?
Enable mod support?
I think so. I think they just did that, but I don't know how that's going to work on SteamOS.
Well, what I was thinking is that someone would make like a optimization mod, and then it runs a lot better.
They probably could have already done it, and people make mods and modifications or like tweaks to engines and stuff like that without a mod supported game. But yeah, you're right. Like once mod support comes into play, it usually makes it easier to do those types of tweaks. It would be awesome But I'd love to see companies, and I think any company. I don't care what people say. Like with the Unreal Engine, you know, Unreal Engine 5, like people complain about that, but it can be optimized, and there's plenty of games that run fine on Steam Deck. It just really depends on developers and what technologies they use and optimization techniques. And so, yeah, I
Yeah, man. I think
so sales wise, yeah, I did not buy much, but I'm gearing up probably more for the winter sale, like you were talking about.
yeah. Damn, I wanted to ask Gardner. We should ask Gardner what he bought on Black Friday / the Steam sale. Probably not as much as we did. Well, probably more than we did, honestly. But yeah. So
Maybe more gaming tech because I bought a coffee maker, a really big espresso maker.
okay, yeah. So the next topic, we were gonna talk about Marvel Rivals on announcing the Steam Deck support, but I didn't realize that the game came out like 2 days ago. So we're not gonna talk about it. It works on Steam Deck. Yeah. Well, all right. Next
That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. Yeah. It works on Steam Deck if you want to play it. I don't know if they'll keep it up. I don't know if they'll keep it Steam Deck available. I don't know. Remember Apex Legends? That had Steam Deck support. Now it doesn't.
I feel like that was for other reasons potentially, but we'll see. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, let's see what else. Warcraft 1 and 2 leaving GOG. So GOG is the platform for game preservation. Generally speaking, you also buy games that are DRM free as well, meaning if a game were to ever be removed from GOG and you still have the offline installer, you basically own the game. Like, as long as you make a backup of that installer, then you wouldn't be able to lose it, so to speak. So they claim that this game is still a part of GOG, their GOG preservation program, in spite of the fact that the game will no longer be on sale starting, I believe, December the 13th. Yeah, December the 13th, Warcraft 1 and 2 will leave. And one has to wonder if more and more companies are just going to remove games from GOG in favor of their new fancy remasters or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Warcraft is. I'm surprised that Blizzard even had it on there to begin with, because the way that they kind of function is very money grabby. I mean, grab it while you can. I'd like to see games starting to go back to their GOG and start being preserved. I think if companies want to start building better goodwill, they need to start doing game preservation and really thinking about that and implementing, either using GOG's preservation program or their own. So you can still do a remaster. I'll buy your remaster, but I like the idea that I buy my games and I can play them forever. Like, I remaster or remake, I'll buy those things typically. Like, that's not going to stop me. What's going to stop me potentially is if you either make a really bad one or you do stuff like kind of like this, where you just it feels very money grubby and pull support. That's where that kind of stuff, like, kind of I get tired of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what to make of it besides the fact that it sucks that games leave GOG. I wish they had an ironclad policy where they could just sell the game on there forever. But obviously that's never going to happen because no one's going to put their games on GOG for that reason. I feel a lot of developers are avoiding GOG already because of their DRM free policy, which is a great policy, objectively speaking. But that, combined with the fact that there's just probably less people using GOG, is not a great, like, motivator for companies like Capcom who use Denuvo.
Well, yeah, that type of DRM. So DRM has its place, especially early on in a game release. Because as much as people want to say, like, especially if you're like an indie developer, any sales matter. And certain games or certain people get a hold of it and really spread it, like, it can really damage. I don't think it hurts AAA as nearly as much as it hurts indies. depending on what happens and what gets leaked. Then on top of that, GOG, like you mentioned, does not have a very big presence. So for me, my game right now, I plan on releasing it on Steam and potentially working with Epic to release it with them. But that's way down the road. I'm still in the early stages of development. So.
All right, and so one more thing though, speaking of DRM, Indiana Jones does not have DRM. It didn't launch with Denuvo, but apparently during the pre-release period where like all the reviewers are playing it, they implemented DRM. They implemented Denuvo for that period to prevent leaks, and I think that's actually a pretty novel way of using Denuvo. I mean, I didn't think I'd praise Denuvo for anything, but I mean, it's actually a pretty novel way of using Denuvo to prevent like games from being pirated before they're available for sale, because that's bullshit if that happens.
I agree. Well, yeah, and for multiple reasons, but I do agree. I think that's a good way to do it. The problem is that it does have a performance hit still. So when you're doing the review, you have to take that into account, and you might do a review saying like, "Hey, this does not work as well as it should," or like I can't run it at max, like a Stalker 2 max on my 4080 Super or whatever. But I think at the end of the day, though, to protect it from getting leaked, I think that's important. I don't want to. I really don't like those types of DRMs releasing upon. Like, I think it's safe enough just to do what Steam does with their DRM system. Like, they have a light DRM system. Just I think that's good enough. But I don't know about releasing like an actual game with DRM built in, because if it does hurt your performance, that just sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard for reviewers. It makes things a little harder when you're like Digital Foundry, but I feel like a lot of performance evaluations happen after the game is released, like, Digital Foundries, of course. And if they're upfront about it, then I guess DF would probably wait until the game is released, like with Denuvo patched out, to actually begin doing their performance analyses.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think so. It's a win-win. I think it kind of gives them chance to not have everything leaked in the beginning and be able to release it, and then other people can test it. So.
And yes, and so the last topic we're talking about is, of course, corporate content creators. So, are you familiar with the concept of a gamer house?
I'm a corporate content creator. Just kidding, I'm not. But I know. So please go over it for me. I think I know the gist of this, but yeah. Go
so
over.
Are you familiar with FaZe Clan?
Yeah.
Okay, so essentially, the idea of multiple content creators being essentially not just managed by like large corporations, but also just being a product of the content creation like corporation or whatever. It's always been kind of slimy to me. Like, there's something I just don't trust about like those organizations. Even the likes of I guessed it, you guessed it, Hololive or like Cover Corp. So you know who they are, right? Probably, right?
Hololive is actually the one I don't know. I know OTK, FaZe, but I don't know Hololive.
Have you played a game called HoloCure?
No.
Oh, okay, that makes things a little harder. So basically,
I'm sorry.
Cover Corp is a major corporation in Japan, and one of their main products is, of course, Hololive, which are essentially a group of VTubers. All the big and most famous ones, including Content Creator of the Year nominee Usada Pecora. Okay. She's under Hololive. So recently there's been some drama in regards to one of their most popular English-speaking talents, Ceres Fana, leaving due to differences in managerial disagreements, so to speak. And let's just say a lot of people were very upset and doom scrolling on the internet about this. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I've never watched her stuff because I don't like watching like streamers, period, to be honest.
I kind of watch streamers, but typically I watch clips of streamers.
Yeah, that tends to be the case too. Yeah. But essentially, Cover Corp went public last year, and people are starting to notice some changes in regards to that. So, concerns about should content creators be under like a corporate umbrella?
I think it's a bad idea if you're trying to protect your brand and you're trying to build brand up, and you don't. And the whole point of doing this type of stuff is to have independence and to have build a business, do all those other things. That's like I like collectives where we work together to do stuff like this podcast, or to work together to do a single thing that people can exit and come in and out of easily, and more or less grow together in a very collective, community-based way. But when you start putting this type of stuff in, it will eventually corrupt. And we've seen it in YouTube world time and time again, right? Content creators having to buy back their channels, being a part of groups and stuff. I can't remember what the name of the groups, what they were called, but there's been plenty of massive
MCNs?
MCNs, yes.
Yeah, so funny story. Yeah, Linus Tech Tips actually started out much the same way too. They had to buy back their channel brand from NCIX, and they were better off for it too, because NCIX is gone now. Yet Linus Tech Tips remains, and he himself.
Fair, with that whole story though, they seemed fairly supportive, and they didn't really believe in it, and so he was able to start it because of them. I think for that thing, that's a little different. Like, he was able to start it and get to where he was because they actually helped him out. And I like that story. There could be more drama that I'm maybe missing out on that. But, and he did buy it from them, which is, you know, I can't remember if he was that expensive. So, I don't know. That's a very interesting story.
Dave, maybe we should get Linus or Luke on this channel.
There's no Luke, I guarantee you I could probably talk Luke into it, because I could get to him on the technical side of like programmer to programmer kind of thing, but I don't know about Linus.
True enough. Fair enough. But yeah, I think content creator like corporations, well, there's two kinds, I think. There's OTK, which is like an organization owned and run by content creators like Mizkif, Asmongold, Emiru, Moist Critical, and then you have companies like Cover Corp.
Oh, that's right.
Cover Corp, who is not owned or ran by any of the VTubers that are most famous, and is run by a bunch of Japanese suits, but so to speak. And
I think it sounds like a nightmare. I'm not gonna lie, it sounds like a fucking nightmare.
It does, and and I don't think I would ever. Like, not saying they would ever give me the time of day, but I don't know if I would ever go through with that unless they paid me like a shitload of money.
Yeah, I mean, the only time I'm okay with people like, because I don't think people understand. Sometimes people are like, oh, sellouts and all. When your livelihood's on the out to play, like if you're gonna make enough money to like quit your job, do this full time, and enjoy it more than what you were doing before, then do it. If you don't feel like you want to sign up for that corporate life for a while, because you could eventually exit or have an exit plan in play, then do your own thing. That's just how it is. The world's not perfect, and sometimes, dude, but people get hate, man. People get so much hate for selling out and doing all their stuff, but a lot of people are just here to survive. I'm very much like that. I like that in the sense of like, not me personally, but like, I think people get a little too hung up, and that's one of the problems of content creators and this symbiotic relationship kind of stuff. These parasocial relationships, right? Not symbiotic, but para relationships can be a little damaging at times too. The OTK one is the one that doesn't bother me. FaZe is kind of an interesting one.
I mean, I think FaZe used to be like a gamer clan, and now they're just like a gamer house, so to speak.
They're like a gamer house, but it feels like a gamer clique, and I'm not here for it. OTK feels a little different, but some of the content creators on there have gotten on my nerves lately. So
Oh yeah, like who?
Asmongold. he's he's a fun ride, but he did do an apology video. I think he did a pretty good job with that. But he's a fun ride because of freaking such a mess he is. He is the quintessential World of Warcraft content creator. If you've seen South Park's freaking, like, he's not heavy like that dude from his South Park, but if you've seen South Park's World of Warcraft episode, that's Asmongold in some way, except for works. Like he has had cockroaches, like everything, but he at least is cleaned up now. But there is no way that dude has so many followers, and I don't know what he's doing to like the youth growing up, but I think he tries his best to be a good role model. You're getting me in. I'm sorry, I'm getting into this whole, but man, he is such a messy dude.
You know, you would think that he could just hire someone to clean up for him like every month, like once a month.
He does. I think he hires someone, but it's not very often. That's my problem. He's like Smog. He hoards this wealth, and I don't think he does it on purpose. I think he's just a single-minded kind of dude, which is fine, I guess, but it's not healthy, and it's very much. He's, I think, a quintessential person that needs help, mental health and health. Everyone needs mental health help and stuff like that. I think everyone in the world, but he's it's kind of one of those things where it's fun to watch until you really realize what's kind of potentially going on and maybe how he's interesting. I'll put it down as that, and I like to study him. But beyond that, I really hope people don't go down that path of living that way. Because
I understand. I mean, like, I think part of it has to do with just how he grew up. Like, I'm not talking about the mess situation. I'm talking about him not using his money. Like, he's a multimillionaire probably, but like he doesn't really use it. And I guess, and part of it is like, I don't know him personally. I'm not going to claim I do, but I would imagine part of it was like he grew up in like a lower like income household, and as such, he's not used to like having all of this money, and he's still like living based on like what he knows from like his childhood. Because I kind of empathize with that a little bit. I can kind of empathize with that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I get that. I have my mannerisms from how I was raised too. But I there's like it's not healthy to not get out of those things, in my opinion. To like you can definitely tell that he has some baggage and some stuff from his youth. And a lot of people do. And I'm very sympathetic, but I also say, you got to get help at one point, because it's just both detrimental to your mental health and your health, your physical health, to not do that. And I just don't know like how he's even making it to this point, because he's got some major medical issues just from his gums bleeding. Like, I follow him enough because it's fascinating, but it makes me sad too at the same time. And so I'm sorry I'm going on this whole rant thing, but like, just being a dad has changed my mindset on a lot of this stuff even more. And the amount of so I've streamed, and I've had to talk to a lot of people, and I've had to parent so much in like Discord and people doing this thing, that I'm just like shocked. And I get into this like parent mode. That's why I'm talking about this.
Yeah, I understand, man. I understand. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Anyways, corporate content creation. I'm not a fan of the idea of these big organizations of like content creators that aren't owned by content creators.
Right.
Like,
I think it's a collective. I think that's fine. Like OTK, I think is good enough, right? I have a lot of hope for what's his face?
Moist Critical.
I quite like him. I think he's got a solid head on his shoulders. So,
oh yeah, he's a smart guy. He's a lot smarter than he like lets on, obviously.
No, I think he's down to earth. Like, every time I've seen him in different things, like, that's the thing I like to see, is people like him. So, plus, I love some of his collabs too. So, Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting topic. I don't know how much people like listeners care, but content creation is going to be continue to grow as jobs are offset and we get into more entertainment and more of an industry that's like this. AI is taking over a lot of other things. Content creation is probably going to be growing, so this is not going to be a dying thing, and it's not bad to have content creators. What's bad is having toxic content creators and having these groups that come together and then become toxic, either because they have group think or like a collective thought of doing like just stupid things. That's a lot of stupid content creators go over and do stupid things like in Japan and stuff like that. Or they get caught up in their like prank stuff and all the other stuff. I'm hoping that stuff dies. But the corporate ones are just as bad as you're essentially giving them money to then control your life, and you're almost like you have contracts where you could lose everything. You have contracts you have to fulfill, that is. So it's very, I don't think people understand sometimes, and they're not very generous to people's plights. Even if they make a lot of money, sometimes they get stuck in very, very crappy situations. There's been multiple content creators over the years that have just been in really rough situations because of this.
Well, I mean, hopefully, I think a lot of content creators. Well, like let's go back to the Hololive example. Like the what was her face? Ceres Fauna had a previous life, and they call them previous life, but it's really just what they were before they became Hololivers. And a lot of her followers went to her like previous channel that she did independently, and her like her subscription count jumped like quadrupled in count. It went from like 50k to like almost 300k. So actually, that's more than triple, right?
That's
so
triple. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a good jumping off point. If people know who you are in a corporation and you leave, then you have a pretty good chance of making it like on your own. Like obviously, you don't have a lot of the corporate support or like the connections or whatever, but you can still. And
some people like almost need that. Some people need assistance. Some people need help because, like, for me, like alone, it's really hard for me to like when I'm in creating script mode. I'm in script mode. It's really hard for me to then switch over to record mode and then over to edit modes. It's really hard for me to get through each one of those. That's why I don't release as much these days. It's hard for me to get into these modes these days. And so having a corporate, and these are streamers, of course. So even streaming, setting up collabs, setting up going to events, setting up all the stuff usually is taken care of by the corporations, and they don't have to think about things as much. So for some people, it might be good for them for a good long while to maybe build up a brand and then be able to break off. It's not a bad thing. It's just, it does get very scummy after a while, especially if there's hostages or if there's like non-compete where they can't go and create their own brand afterwards, or they try to control their brand. There's a lot of usually scummy things that kind of are the underlying thing of this. So.
Yeah, I agree too. I think in cases like where you break off by yourself, once you've built up the like support, you could probably afford to hire a secretary that does all of that for you. Like all the business deals, all of the collabs, like in answering emails that you probably don't have time to answer yourself. Well, yeah,
you can, but you might not own your brand though. You do have to rebrand kind of. So that's another danger that tends to happen.
But I think in like these, but I do think in like these really like, I hate to interrupt you again, but like in these like really,
I'm done.
Yeah. Anyways, I think the general point is corporations bad, individuals good.
I don't necessarily agree with that. As much as I have problems with corporations, I think collectives can be good, but can be very bad if corrupted. And corporations alone, all around, can be okay, but I don't know if anyone should ever trust them long term. Meaning, if it's your chance to get into the limelight, and as long as they don't have bad practices, because when I say limelight, like the entertainment industry has a horrible track record of sexual abuse and everything else. So it's at the end of the day, you got to be wary of what you're signing up for. But some people do really well signing up and getting their name kind of known and then breaking off and doing their own brand. As long as you don't sign too much of yourself away. Kind of my thing on this. Sorry, I didn't mean, I know I said I was done, but like, I agree. Individualistic, good, but sometimes collectives are needed, especially in today's world, to grow. And then corporations are just make sure that you're using them as much as they're using you.
Well said. That's a lot better than my statement.
Your statement's not bad. It's just I've had to fight with too many people that are like
not all corporations are bad. I understand. I know
not all corporations are bad, but they're, use them. If they're going to use you, use them. Try to find a way to use them.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, man. I mean, anti-corporation sentiment has been at an all-time high ever since a certain incident that happened this week in New York City. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we were going to cover it because it's not tech related, but I think to like morph it into the gaming and tech world, we had anti-sentiments with Nvidia a few years ago, really price hiking stuff during COVID, which I can't believe they were not. We have price gouging laws. I don't know if it would apply to tech, but surprised they got away with that. No corporation, like, I don't think people understand that, like, capitalism can be good, but unfettered, unregulated capitalism leads to kind of what we're seeing more and more, where you're gonna get the worst of the worst products and everything. It doesn't lead to the best products.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. That's why people are afraid of Valve going public, because Lord knows what would happen if Valve went public. And they also got like partially owned by like, who are the usual suspects? Like Tencent? They like put their fingers on everything. Yeah, Tencent.
Worst case scenario, I think that would be the end of my like hope in capital. I think I'd probably become an anti-capitalist at that point if Tencent owned Valve. And that's a really weird, like, I'm not anti-capitalist, but a really weird line in the sand kind of thing. Man, you got me worrying now. But I don't think they're going to go public. I don't think they have any plans to go public, right? It's only if Gabe Newell, whatever his contingency plan is for when he exits.
Yeah.
Whether his life ascends to his glory, his throne, or just retires.
I think Gabe Newell understands the risks that would come with like leaving his company to someone else that might not have the same interests. So I'm sure he has a contingency plan for that. So yeah, I think that covers this episode. Yeah, I know we said it was going to be a short episode, but it's about as long as all of our other episodes. And
it's the shortest one, I think. One of the shortest ones we've recorded.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's fair enough. We've had some pretty long.
We do
episodes.
like 2 hours. Like, no, it's been a great episode. I've really enjoyed talking about everything and high tech. Like, high tech's the one that compiled a lot of these notes and everything. And I just want to, throw out a shout out to you. This was so helpful. And this was a great episode.
Yeah, man. Hopefully Gardner will recover, and then we'll see him next week. Is there anything special on next week?
It is not the best episode because Gardner is not here, but it was still a good episode.
Yeah.
We should be having our stream probably next week, I think.
Oh, the Game Awards is next week. That's right. I forgot about that. Oh, man. Sorry for all those guys using headphones.
Thursday, so December 12th. So, yep. We'll set something up.
I need to set an alarm. You need to remind me.
I need to remind myself.
Okay.
I've been my anxiety's been keeping track of it, so don't worry. Yeah, because we have streaming capabilities. We'll be doing the podcast or doing whatever this is during the, streaming it. So that'll be fun.
Gotcha. All right.
We'll have announcements out, right?
Absolutely, man. We'll make an announcement and then we'll go from there. I think this will be a live episode too. I think that's the plan, right?
Yep. It'd be a live episode or a special or something like that.
All right, let's get to it.
Okay.
All right.
Should we end this? See you guys. Thank you for watching, listening. Remember to subscribe,
Like
follow.
like and subscribe, and we're also on like Spotify and Apple Music, and are we on any other platforms?
YouTube Music. We're on a couple other platforms. Yeah, I don't remember all the platforms. We need to add them to the descriptions and into the video itself.
Yes, please. Yes,
Baby steps. Baby steps.
Baby steps.
Okay. Later, guys.
See ya.